In the news this week, the $400 handout won't last long. West Aussies are warned not to expect power credit as a long-term solution. Peter Kennedy's exclusive take.
Also tonight, 1.2 million houses by the end of the decade. The federal government's housing target faces doubts as the building backlog continues. Stolen four-wheel drive and several items recovered following two separate police raids across Perth. And on Western Perspective, South Perth Labor MP Geoff Baker is featured in the Battlers series. And later, Dr. Andrew Miller's comment.
This is The Evening News with Ivan Loong and Maliva Thorne.
Good evening. With the cost of living hurting and elections nearing, state and federal governments are rolling out power credits to win over WA voters. But after years of these credits, there are warnings they are not a long-term fix, and West Aussies should not depend on them, especially as rising power prices might demand even more subsidies. We kick off with Peter Kennedy's exclusive take.
West Australian energy consumers just don't know how lucky they are. The $400 state government electricity subsidy will certainly ease the pain of power bills. And that's as well as the federal government's $300 power subsidy, 4 lots of $75 to stretch over the next 12 months will also ease the pain of energy bills. But don't expect them to continue in the long term. The state government's subsidy is linked with the very, very generous and very, very high royalty payments from the mining industry. If those royalty payments come down, the government's capacity to provide the energy bill relief will be significantly reduced. So the two are very much interlinked. So watch out for that iron ore price, watch out for the royalty revenue. If that continues high and the power prices are high, then the subsidy could well continue. But if the royalty revenue comes down, then the government's capacity to also pay the power subsidy comes down as well. One other thing to keep in mind, the power subsidy also helps Synergy. Synergy is the energy provider. It has had financial difficulties, and the $400 subsidy to each consumer goes straight to Synergy, which is effectively a government subsidy for Synergy. So for the government, it's a subsidy for energy producers. It's also a subsidy for householders, and the government hopes it'll get the credit for the subsidy to householders. Time will tell. Peter Kennedy, WAMN News.
West Australian voters are big winners in this year's state and federal budgets, with the $700 electricity relief for all households. However, other issues such as the housing and rental crisis are set to be long-term problems, despite the Albanese government's 1.2 million housing targets. Property agents and developers are not optimistic that this ambitious goal will be met by 2034. Paige Reid reports.
Housing and cost of living are the key priorities in this year's state and federal budgets, with West Australians said to get a total of $700 power relief in a joint power credit. And that's before the other relief such as Medicare, PBS, housing and student loans. The state government welcomed the announcement.
We saw a budget which builds on our budget to do what's right for WA. It was a great budget for Western Australia. It was a great budget for Western Australia industry. This is the biggest power bill credit for WA households will have ever received, and will make a real difference to the hip pockets for Western Australians and help address the cost of living pressures which every Western Australian household is feeling today.
The government has also announced an ambitious 1.2 million houses to be built by 2029. In the Housing Accord that was introduced in mid-2024, the state was allocated 1,076 affordable houses to help cope with the housing crisis the country is currently facing. Australia Living Group's property manager Michael Leung is not optimistic that the targets can be met.
We need more people to work in Australia, more trade to work to build a house. We need more people to do the infrastructure, like the building the sewer, building the water supply, also the electricity supply. So we can do more land, so the more people can build a house, so they increase the supply.
Leung says he believes things are only going to get worse before they get better, with no change possibly coming for the next 2 years. WA's housing vacancy currently sits at 1%, with people still coming into the state. Paige Reid, WAMN News.
Hi there. Are you looking for a new home or want to refinance your car mortgage to get a better rate? At AA Finance Solutions, we have the expertise and knowledge to help you to find the right loan for your needs and budgets. Contact us today. Let us help you to make your home ownership dream a reality.
AA Finance Solutions, your local mortgage broker.
2 demonstrations were held at the same time at Curtin University. A pro-Palestine protest took place at the Gaza encampment on the lawn outside the T.L. Robertson Library, and a pro-Israel march was held next to the hockey field. The pro-Palestine rally was held as a response to the Together with Israel demonstration. The Curtin University Student Guild President, Jasmine Tweed, stated that the safety of students was number one. Meanwhile, the organiser of Students for Palestine WA stated that the Together with Israel demonstration was not being transparent. WAMN News also spoke with Rabbi Daniel Lieberman from the Perth Hebrews congregation. He stated that the pro-Israel rally was marching to support Jewish students at the university. He said that he would like the university to make sure Jewish students are safe and secure on the campus, as well as to make sure that they are not marginalised.
Following the theft of a number of caravans and Toyota Land Cruisers, police have pressed charges against a number of people. During a continuing investigation, a few individuals were charged by Midland detectives over these incidents. According to a WA police spokesperson, a Caversham caravan park experienced a caravan theft on Saturday the 30th of March this year. The Joko caravan was full of the owner's entire personal belongings, which encompassed sentimental items. After the vehicle was allegedly stolen from Perth Airport, 2 search warrants were later executed, and as a result, the missing Land Cruiser along with several items were recovered. A 38-year-old man and 2 women aged 38 and 35 have been charged. They will appear at court in separate dates. Authorities stated investigation is still underway and anyone with information should contact police.
WA Police has announced the successful conclusion of Strikeforce Vulcan's 14th year operation, reporting significant progress in combating bushfires across the state. Operating from December 1st last year to April 30 this year, Strikeforce Vulcan, led by senior detectives from the WA Police Arson Squad and supported by police officers, demonstrated a collaborative effort with the Department of Fire and Emergency Services and the Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions. The success of this partnership has laid the groundwork for potential continuation in future seasons. Throughout the season, Strikeforce Vulcan officers diligently attended and investigated 178 bushfires, resulting in 44 individuals being charged with a total of 181 offences. Additionally, 38 juveniles were referred to the Juvenile Justice Team and a Jaffa program administered by DFES.
The 2024 WA Day Festival is set to highlight some of WA's best homegrown talent, featuring an entire day of Western Australian artists. The 2-day-long music festival, which is entirely free, will be held on Sunday the 2nd and Monday the 3rd of June. Taking place at Burswood Park, the Monday, which is to be chock full of local music, has been made possible thanks to a partnership with local radio station RTR-FM. The Monday lineup is to feature Joan and the Giants, Angie Coleman, Pond, Siobhan Cochin, Marta Kitchi, Mia June and Grievous Bodily Calm. Sunday will host famous artists and bands such as The Waifs, Eskimo Joe, End of Fashion, Guy Sebastian and Sneaky Sound System. Western Australians are urged to head down to Burswood Park this WA Day long weekend, with free public transport, fireworks and drone shows. Speaking of WA Day, I'm certainly looking forward to the fireworks. What about you, Ivan?
I assume that you also look forward to the music show as well. For me, the drones, they did it once a year, I think. We have lived it every year, but we'll try to live it again this year, and of course we'll let you know when that happens.
We'll recap this week's top stories again in just a moment.
But right now, here's Paige Reid with Western Perspective. Good evening, Paige.
Thanks, Ivan and Melly. Welcome to Western Perspective. I'm Paige Reed. Continuing with the Battler interview series, we're directing our attention to marginal seats in the upcoming state election. This week, our focus is on South Perth, where electorate Labor MP Geoff Baker secured a seat with a 10% margin during former Premier Mark McGowan's landslide victory in 2021. The challenge is for Labor to retain the seat, while Liberals are aiming to reclaim previous secure consecutive heartlands. Joining us this week is Labor's Geoff Baker discussing his campaign and the prospects for success.
G'day, can you please tell us a little bit about who you are and why you're here today?
I'm Geoff Baker. I'm the Member of the Legislative Assembly for South Perth, and I'm here to talk about the wonderful things the Cook Labor government has been doing in this area.
There's a 10.9% margin in regards to this electorate. What are your thoughts on that when it comes to competition?
Well, I think this has never been a Labor seat in South Perth before. It's always been a Liberal seat. So I think it's been a bit of a journey for everyone here, but I think this will be the front line of the election. This will be come down right to the wire on election night, but I'm getting a really good response from people when I'm out and about.
So in regards to the Liberals, do you have any concerns, particularly as you said this has traditionally been a safe Liberal seat?
So, well, the Liberal Party would do what the Liberal Party do. I'm focused on South Perth. They've pre-selected a candidate from the Clan, and that's a little bit controversial within the Liberal Party, and we'll see how that goes.
Or continue this change to Labor when traditionally this has been a Liberal safe seat?
Well, I think our record in government is really good. We've got excellent budget results over years, and we look after the state's finances, and then we make that deliver for people. And you contrast that with what the Liberal Party did, where they left us in deficit and debt, lost the AAA credit rating, put up taxes, and they're just a bit of a shambles. I wouldn't trust them with the state's coffers at all.
So what do you think are the highlights of the Cook government's initiatives for the South Perth area?
Well, I think the first thing that's happened is that South Perth has a voice in the Cook Labor government, and I'm delighted to be part of that. The things that we've been doing in South Perth, we've been looking at education, and so we've in the recent budget we put up $600,000 for a plan to revive and upgrade Como Secondary College. And that's been a really big community issue around here, and I'm really pleased we've got that money, and it's the first stage of a bigger project.
So how do you think the Cook government has benefited residents in South Perth? What have they really seen?
So one of the things that a lot of people have been telling me about is pressures on cost of living, and I'm really pleased in the last budget we had $400 for the energy assistance package, which has been matched by a further $300. So that's money to pay power bills, which I think everyone loves. And we've also got the $150 and $250 for kids in secondary schools and primary schools, and that's a big relief to parents who are doing it tough at the moment.
So what kind of issues are people living in South Perth currently facing, and that they need the support of the Cook government for in the future?
So the cost of living is the number one issue that we're addressing, and it affects people in South Perth in lots of different ways. And so we're getting cash into people's pockets. We're helping out with the electricity, but we're also thinking about the community that we live in South Perth. So what kind of community do we want to be in the future? What do we want our schools to look like? What do we want our recreation facilities to look like? And there are all sorts of opportunities there for us to do great things.
Are there any issues unique to South Perth in this regard?
The zoo is a unique issue. So we've got a master plan for the zoo. The zoo's been there for 100 years or so. I know it's been there forever, but it's constantly changing its mission. So it used to be about introduced species. Now it's all about conservation, and we've got a $40 million master plan to upgrade the facilities there and to improve the enclosures for the animals, to engage in research to protect West Australian endangered species, and to provide an outdoor classroom for kids from Western Australia.
What are you promising, or are there any specific promises in regards to South Perth from the Labor government in this upcoming state election? So
a couple of things we're doing is I'm really focused on public education. So Como Secondary College, we got $600,000 to build a master plan for it and to stage one of the upgrades. We're also looking at Canning Bridge interchange and cleaning up the traffic snarl that's there, and we're going to do it by building a bus interchange away from the actual Canning Highway, because we shouldn't have bus stops in the middle of Canning Highway, in the middle of a bridge over the freeway. So we're going to make it a lot easier for buses, pedestrians, cyclists to get on and off those platforms, and when we do that, it'll clear up the traffic congestion. So with the ferry, the government's looking at expanding the ferry network, so it won't be just South Perth to Elizabeth Quay. It's potentially going to be going to Canning Bridge, to Crawley, and to the stadium, which would be a great expansion of the network and help relieve congestion on the roads.
And now here is Dr. Andrew Miller with his weekly medical and news commentary.
Hi, we're clearly in the next big surge of COVID in Australia since the one that peaked in January, February of this year. We now have one nursing home in Perth which has around 70 positive residents, 30 positive staff, and unfortunately a number of deaths, and that's just in one place. Aged care, of course, is the one place where we're able to get reasonably reliable reporting these days. We also see some wastewater reports, and we know that that's also on the way up. This will be with the FLIRT strain, the FLIRT strain, which is around, which is a timely reminder that if you can possibly get a booster and you haven't had one, you should. Unfortunately, we have very low booster rates in aged care at the moment, and we know that that's a particularly vulnerable population. So if you have a relative or if you're in there yourself, please make sure that you're up to date with the COVID booster, which is very effective at preventing severe outcomes from this disease. And we know also is likely to reduce long COVID, the persistence of things like brain fog and fatigue and tachycardia, none of which will necessarily kill you, but it'll certainly make you miserable over the long term. So prevention, as always, as Grandma said, is better than cure. Now, we're also seeing reports coming out of the US of a nasty bird flu and influenza, avian influenza, which has caused mayhem in the dairy industry there at the moment. And it's some demonstration of the trouble with the lack of leadership in public health and the lack of follow-through by governments, in that people are not really getting that you need to avoid raw milk, milk that hasn't been pasteurised, homogenised, and milk from these infected animals. At the moment, we've not seen human-to-human transmission as far as we know, and this is restricted to people who've caught it directly from cattle, so dairy workers, or people who have consumed the milk from these cows. Unfortunately, it's got a very high mortality rate. Looks like around 50% of people who contract this are succumbing to the illness, and so very much a good idea to avoid it. And another timely reminder that we should be up to date with our influenza vaccine, and now's the time to be getting it because there's a nasty flu season. A lot of evidence that having had an episode of COVID sometime in the last couple of years knocks your immune system around such that we're not as good at fighting off other diseases, and that's why we're seeing the rise in many other things causing problems in our community that haven't been around for some time. So get the immunisations that you're eligible for, look after yourselves, try to breathe clean air wherever possible, and take care of your family. Thanks for your time.
That's Dr. Miller, and that's Western Perspective for this week. We'll be back again next time, but for now, it's back to you, Ivan and Melly.
Thanks, Paige. And that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have the latest news on our website, wamnnews.com.au.
Remember to subscribe to the WAMN Extra News Club so we can continue our work in the community. Full details on wamnews.com.au/news/extra. From Melly, Paige, Peter and myself, wish you good health, good night. See you next Sunday.
Thanks for watching.